Eastern Conference Finals on the NHL that returns tonight. So we got the Rangers back home inside Madison Square Garden. Series tied at 2 against the Lightning. Let's ask these guys some very important, potentially award-winning questions. RotoWire's AJ Scholz, Paul Bruno. We got Pete Jensen here of NHL.com. Before we get to the Showdown contest here, guys, let's just keep it simple. We kind of had a feeling the Lightning might hold serve on home ice. I mean, both teams really getting it done when they're in the friendly confines of their home. What's the key for the Rangers, do you think, to bounce back tonight, Paul? They've been damn good at home this postseason.
Boy, oh boy. There's a laundry list of things the Rangers have to look after, though, Emerson. The Lightning have certainly scared them straight, I'll say, with the last 2 games after the Rangers may have thought, oh, we got the champs by the throat. Well, tonight, Shesterkin must continue his high level of play. He's up over 93% save percentages, about 8 of his last 9 starts. The Rangers need to start on time. They need to score first. They gave up a couple of leads earlier in this series, and it cost them. They can't afford that to happen again, but if they fall behind, they're in really big trouble. They have to match the physicality of Tampa, and that's been a real challenge for any team that Bolts have played in the playoffs. And finally, they got to win the secondary scoring battle. The Rangers are really relying on that top line to carry their offense, and I don't know that they can do that much longer.
Yeah, AJ, we're seeing a clear separation here now from like shift to shift because the Lightning didn't allow a single goal against at even strength across 2 games in Tampa Bay.
Well, it's pretty early for Paul to be wrong, but there's not a laundry list of things that need to be fixed here. There's one thing that they have to do, the Rangers that is, and that's to get to Andrei Vasilevskiy. In the first 2 contests, the Rangers had 21 high-danger chances against Vasilevskiy compared to just 2 in the last 2 road contests. If they can get those opportunities back up at MSG, they'll have a chance to take a lead heading back to Tampa for Game 6. It's all about the Rangers getting to Vasilevskiy and increasing those high-danger chances.
Okay, Pete, how do you feel about tonight, man? Because now the Rangers, too, a little more beaten up. Couple key guys that are game-time decisions tonight.
Yeah, definitely with Hedl and Ryan Strome uncertain, it makes the Rangers' chances a little bit more bleak. But again, I think this falls on the Rangers' possession numbers. Right now, they're pretty bad this postseason, minus 178 shot attempts differential, worst in the playoffs in the league right now. All year long, they were kind of a team with middle of the road to poor analytics on their side, but they've gotten by because of relying on Shesterkin. How about stepping up to the plate here and surrounding him with success to give yourself a chance to actually finish off the back-to-back defending champions? Because nobody's been able to do that. And in order to do so, you're going to have to dictate the possession a little bit better. They did a better job of that at home, so they do have a chance of doing that here. But again, when the going gets tough, especially if Tampa Bay gets Braden Point back at some point in this series, I don't really like their chances. I've kind of felt all along this season that this kind of lack of possession dominance would come back to bite them, and it seems to be happening right now.
Yeah, well, Paul, as for tonight and like DFS, who do you think you're going to captain right now? What's your mindset? You got the 2 netminders as the most expensive dudes on the slate.
Before the last game that was played in this series, I said I have to go with Vasilevskiy possibly. He's done that thing where he goes to another level in the playoffs. Only 3 goals scored against him in the last 2 games, negating the impact of the goalie at the other end of the game of the ice, who's clearly the New York's best MVP. And then getting the winning goalie for those extra points to get the W tonight. That's where I think the money is in terms of the DFS play this evening. And I mean, I'll remind my partner that I tweeted that out and then I put the final score in for that game. It was 4-1, wasn't it? And my tweet shows that score 2 hours before that puck drop. I'm going to say it's 3-1 tonight. Book it.
All right, AJ, have at it.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it with what I went in the last game, and that's Nikita Kucherov here. There's no reason to get overly fancy with it. 14-7 is the price tag here. He's got goals in 3 straight games, plus another 3 helpers. And if you pay, quote unquote, pay down for Kucherov, you can afford to get some other guys in your lineup. If it were at home, I'd be with Paul on the Vasilevskiy call. I agreed with him the other day. I'm not as confident here in MSG. He did struggle in those first 2 games, 9 goals allowed on 62 shots. So for me, I think I'd rather go Kucherov here. Maybe still keep Vasilevskiy in as a player, but not as my captain tonight.
All right, Pete, who are you deciding to spend 1.5 times the salary on, but receiving 1.5 times the points in return?
I want my captain to be Adam Fox here because he has points in all 9 Ranger home games this postseason. You could definitely attribute their 8-game home winning streak to him and him driving play on both ends of the ice and helping out Shesterkin. He's one of the best players helping his cause on a nightly basis. We all talk about Cale Makar's dominance out west for the Avalanche and how he's one of the front runners for the Conn Smythe right now. But if the Rangers somehow get by Tampa Bay, I think there's a case in terms of consistency for Adam Fox to win the Conn Smythe, maybe even over Igor Shesterkin because of his body of work and his consistency. He has had at least a point in 15 of the Rangers' 18 games this postseason. So you're not going to get better lineup lock territory than that.
All right, so maybe you like Shesterkin to stack with Fox?
That's tough. I mean, I was definitely looking at a Tampa Bay stack because I feel a lot more confident in that group. And AJ obviously mentioned Nikita Kucherov. I like his line mate on the other wing, and I would stack those two if you can find the salary cap space. Andre Palat tied for 5th in even strength points this postseason in the league. Also tied for 3rd in even strength goals. This power forward is creating matchup problems for the New York Rangers. And I think that he's delivering in the big spots. We saw the Kucherov to Palat connection at the tail end of Game 3, and he seems to just be a thorn in their side right now. So Andre Palat kind of planning to ride the hot hand with him in my mock lineup with Kucherov, and also having Adam Fox in the mix, like I mentioned, as the captain.
All right, what do you want to do here, AJ?
Well, I think Pete's right on with that, and I would really go Palat and Stamkos. You can fit both guys into your lineup tonight with Kucherov as a captain. So I go that whole line. As you mentioned, both Stamkos and Palat have 5 points in this series, and you get to double down when you get Stammer and Kucherov on that number 1 power play. The only hesitation you might want to take with this is if Braden Point plays, there's a chance it could shuffle up this line combination. So I would definitely check back. Unfortunately, we might not know until closer to warmups for what those line combos would be. Great place to look for those, rotowire.com.
All right, Paul, hook me up with someone you want to stack with your captain.
Definitely has to be Steven Stamkos. I love the possibility of getting Stamkos, Kucherov, and Vasilevsky in my lineup. And then that leaves me to think, who do I bring in from the New York Rangers? And with the injuries that they've got up front, I think you got to look at a guy like Barclay Goodrow, who could step up in terms of ice time and opportunity, moving into a top 6 role. Add in the fact that he used to play with Tampa, and he knows what they bring to the table in terms of physicality. He plays with the same style. This could be a real platform for him to show his value to his new team, as well as remind his old club.
Well, Pete, we've just mentioned like Strome and Hedl here, game time decisions for New York, and Tampa coach John Cooper also, as we've mentioned, has not ruled out Braden Point either, despite him missing the last round and not even suiting up in the conference final yet. Which player do you think, if they do play, has the most potential tonight?
I think it's Braden Point. I mean, the other guys will work against the Rangers if they're out, but I mean, it's amazing that Tampa Bay, since Point went down, is somehow 7-2, dating back to Game 7 against the Toronto Maple Leafs, where of course they were able to withstand his injury. But Braden Point is a game breaker. He's their best closer. If he comes back in this series, I just don't see the Rangers winning it. That's how I've felt all along. It would be a bonus, like John Cooper said, if he does appear in this series. Braden Point has the most goals of any player in the NHL postseason over the past 3 playoffs combined. So there's your answer. Pretty a lot of conviction there, right?
Yeah, I mean, AJ, what do you think? Which one would you be quick to put in your DFS lineups?
Pete's right on again. I mean, it's absolutely Braden Point. Now, I will say I feel the least confident about him playing. John Cooper's comments were pretty vague earlier in the week, and I would expect more a Game 6 or Game 7. But whenever he's in, he is the biggest DFS pump up value of all 3 of those guys. Of the 2 Rangers, it's got to be Strome. He'll have the bigger DFS impact over Hedl here. Second line guy for them when available. He's averaging over 3 minutes of power play ice time during the playoffs. So of those 2, Strome should have the bigger impact. But if all 3 guys are playing, Braden Point for sure.
I mean, Paul, can you make a case here for Strome or Hedl?
No, listen, let's be reminded that Point is the top point getter for the two cup runs that this team enjoyed. That's what they're missing. If they can get him back, that's a hell of a boost to this lineup. Certainly, you got to look at the other side and say, if they're missing one or both of their second and third line centers, that means, of course, the pressure's on Goodrow to deliver the goods. And he's not been used to that role. So a lot of pressure on the New York side of things, whereas Tampa can say, look, we've come this far without arguably our most important offensive piece over the last 3 playoff seasons.